the visor with the Tagalog inscription, and the match that shook the Nadal Academy. 6 words, just 6 Tagalog words embroidered on the back of Alexandra Eala's visor. Kapag lumago, hindi nahihinto. Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. She spoke these words during a press conference on Thursday, July 2nd, 2026. No acting, no fluff, just a calm statement in a room where players usually opt for safe, predictable cliches. Then, she stepped onto the court and played tennis that embodied those exact words. The final score? 3-6, 6-2, 6-0. The opponent was Maya Joint, the Australian who just 2 days prior had defeated none other than Serena Williams, owner of 23 Grand Slam titles. The venue, Wimbledon. The stage, the 3rd round. And for the first time in the open era of tennis, a Philippine player, male or female, had reached the 3rd round of a Grand Slam. People called it a moment that shocked even the Nadal Academy itself. But the real question does not lie in this victory. It lies in a doubt that has simmered for 2 years throughout Eala's career, a doubt that the tennis world politely avoided addressing directly. Could she close out a major? Not just win a single match, not just pull off a one-off upset, but put together a consecutive string of victories in the harshest arena in sports. Just 6 months ago at the Australian Open, Eala stepped onto Key Arena, suffered a 6-0 opening set blowout against Alicia Parks, and exited in the first round for the 3rd time in her career. The Nadal Academy posted a cryptic message back then: not all victories are decided on the court. From that bagel to the one she just handed Maya Joint in the deciding set at Wimbledon, it has been an uphill climb that was anything but accidental. This video will walk through every centimeter of that journey, how she soared from world number 140 to number 29 in just 12 months, the true connection with Rafael Nadal behind the sensational headlines, and the name awaiting her in the 3rd round, Iga Swiatek, a player Eala once defeated in Miami but has never faced on a Grand Slam stage. If you want to follow every true turning point of the most compelling stories in tennis, don't scroll past Pro Tennis 360. Subscribe right now because the next episode on the Swiatek Showdown is coming sooner than you think. The room the tennis world politely avoided mentioning. Before talking about victory, we must talk about the glass ceiling that once loomed over Alexandra Eala's career. Prior to Wimbledon 2026, she had entered 6 Grand Slam main draws. She had made it to the 2nd round exactly once at last year's US Open. 4 out of those 6 times, she bowed out in the opening round. In January of this year, she entered the Australian Open ranked in the top 75 and left the tournament after a 6-0 first-set bagel, the exact opposite of what people expected from a rising star. That was the real context, not to diminish her story, but to show the true height of the leap that was about to happen. Her most famous victory, the upset against Iga Swiatek in Miami 2025, took place on hard courts on a casual Tuesday afternoon in Florida on a stage far smaller than a Grand Slam. Until this week, her Grand Slam record read like a player still learning how to survive into the 2nd week of a major. And the question that the tennis world was too polite to say out loud remained dormant in the numbers. Could she close things out? That was the real villain of this story. Not an opponent, not a villain of flesh and blood, but a quiet, patient question that sat in the corner of her career for 2 years, waiting to be answered. On Thursday, on court 12, in a set where no one expected her to win the way she did, she answered it. But before we get to that set, look at her seeding. This year's Wimbledon marks the first time Eala's career she didn't have to navigate a tournament as an unknown underdog. Number 29. That is the number next to her name on the draw. 12 months ago, her ranking was 140. That is the math of a turning point. The result is the visible surface. Beneath it lies a whole year where a 21-year-old climbed over 100 ranking spots, captured her first career grass court title, and quietly stopped being talked about as mere potential to become a name the entire WTA system must actively reckon with. Before the crowd saw it, the seeding saw it. Before the seeding saw it, the ranking saw it. And before the ranking side, she was grinding away at Manacor. The first round wasn't just a match, it was a warning. 24 hours before that historic bagel, Alexandra Eala stepped onto the court against Renata Zarazua, a battle-hardened veteran of the professional tour. The result? 6-1, 6-2 in just 1 hour and 18 minutes. But the more impressive numbers lie in the details. Eala generated 17 breakpoint opportunities and converted 4 of them. She struck 22 winners compared to Zarazua's 11, and throughout the entire match, she didn't drop her serve not once. These are not the stats of a player struggling to survive. These are the stats of a player working economically, cleanly, without wasting a single drop of energy. She didn't look like someone spending her energy, she looked like someone saving it. Now we know what she was saving it for. Stepping off the court, she noticed something unexpected. A corner of the Wimbledon stands on a Tuesday afternoon in the first round was almost entirely Filipino. "I was really surprised," she said after the match. "Filipinos just keep surprising me in the best way. I never thought that at Wimbledon I would have this kind of home court feel." A Wimbledon ticket is one of the hardest items to secure in the entire sporting world. That crowd didn't just appear by chance. They showed up because they had been waiting. This is the emotional foundation upon which Eala's Wimbledon story is built. It's not just a young girl trying to win a match. It is a community, a country, finding its representation in a place where they have never had anyone stand before. And now, let's pause for a second because the next event is what truly reshaped the entire tournament. Eala's second-round opponent, Maya Joint, had knocked out 23 Grand Slam champion and legend Serena Williams just 2 days prior. It was the most shocking result of the tournament up to that point. Joint stepped onto court 12 as the giant killer of the day. Unseeded, ranked world number 87, but carrying a very specific wave of momentum. Their head-to-head record before this was 0-1 in favor of Joint, who won their Eastbourne final a year ago. This was no easy draw. This was the most difficult middle round a young player questioned about her Grand Slam longevity could possibly face. A set down, and then the axis shifts. The first set went to Maya Joint, 6-3. On paper, and to most people in the stands, the question seemed to have answered itself. Then, the axis shifted. Eala took the second set 6-2 with more aggressive returning, a sharper serve, and a distinct tactical shift. And then came the third set against an opponent who had sent Serena Williams packing just 48 hours earlier. She did exactly what a young player questioned about her closing ability must do, at least once, to change the narrative completely. She won that set 6-0. A bagel in the deciding set, on grass, at Wimbledon, against the opponent nobody wanted to face. This is the emotional peak of the story, and it requires no exaggeration. 6 months prior at the Australian Open, she was the one on the receiving end of a 6-0 opening round blowout at a major. Now at Wimbledon, she was the one delivering that exact same scoreline in a set that made her the first Filipino woman in the Open era to reach the third round of a Grand Slam. The bagel was once handed to her. Now she has learned how to hand it back. Let's take a step back further. She entered March 2026 ranked 32nd in the world. 12 months ago, she was 140. This isn't an overnight fluke. It is a steady climb. A third-round appearance at Wimbledon isn't the lucky break wrapped in a good week of tennis. It is the visible peak of a slope that has been growing steeper all year. In June, on grass, she won the Birmingham Classic, her first career grass title, and the second highest WTA-level trophy of her young career, with a 3-set comeback in the final. Then she came to London. Then she won her opening match without dropping her serve. Then she erased a 1-set deficit against the woman who had just eliminated Serena Williams. This is not an isolated moment. This is a sequence of events with continuity, logic, and gradual building over time. The mentor behind the scenes and the truth behind the headlines. Now to the question of the mentor behind the scenes, because the way this story has been told naturally invites it. Eala has trained since her early teens at the Nadal Academy in Manacor, Mallorca. Before Wimbledon got underway, the academy, the institution that has shaped her tennis since she was 13, posted a message on its social media channels calling her journey from the Philippines to Mallorca truly inspiring and wishing her luck for her Wimbledon debut. That is the authentic, verified voice of this story. Rafael Nadal himself has spoken about her with warmth multiple times over the past year, and his academy has publicly highlighted her progress as one of its flagship success stories. But there is a phrase that has gone viral online over the past 24 hours, that Nadal was personally shocked by Eala's Wimbledon run and that he issued a dramatic statement immediately following her second-round victory. As of the recording of this video, that cannot be traced back to any verified quote in mainstream tennis journalism. What is verified is quieter and, honestly, far more meaningful. It is that the Academy framed her Wimbledon debut as a major story before she had won a single match at the tournament. When she won 2 matches, that narrative framework required no adjustment. It simply became truer over time. The people who have watched her closest for the past 8 years are the ones least surprised in that building. That's usually how true mentorship works when it succeeds. Not shock, but the realization of what was long expected. And this is what separates Pro Tennis 360 from channels that just chase clickbait headlines. We don't just repeat what goes viral. We track down the true origins of the story, clearly separating what is verified from what is just hyped up speculation to farm views.
The room she just walked into. Now let's talk about what lies ahead, because that is the true core of this entire story. The third round of Wimbledon, the opponent Iga Swiatek, the reigning champion, a multi-Grand Slam winner across all surfaces. Their head-to-head record entering this match stands at 1 win apiece. Eala's lone victory, of course, came in Miami back in March 2025, a match that made every highlight reel of the year but proved nothing on its own about her capability on a Grand Slam stage. The upcoming match will prove it. Swiatek, in her second-round victory over Karolina Pliskova, looked like her dominant self again after a shaky stretch of form. Eala, when asked about this in Thursday's press conference, didn't blink. "It's going to be tough for me," she said. "I'm going to try to make it tough for her too." She has won a Grand Slam on grass, she has one on clay, she has one on hard courts, so I'm expecting a big challenge, but I think I'm ready for it. I'm ready to face it head-on. Those are the words of a player who knows exactly what room she is standing in and has no intention of asking to be smaller within it. And let's take an even wider step back, because the significance of this run stretches far beyond her individual career trajectory. In the open era of tennis, no singles player from the Philippines, male or female, had ever reached the third round of a Grand Slam before this week. In the amateur era, 74 years ago, a 5'1" player named Felicissimo Ampon made the third round of Roland Garros. Since then, silence. Until Court 12. Until Thursday. Until now. The January bagel wasn't forgotten. It was answered. And here, the harder part needs to be stated plainly, because a turning point only matters if you know where the direction began to change. 6 months and 11 days before reaching the third round of Wimbledon, Alexandra Eala stepped onto Kia Arena at the Australian Open, lost the first set 6-0 to Alicia Parks, and dropped her opening match at a major for the third time in her career. Her post-match interviews were quiet and honest. The Rafa Nadal Academy later posted a message containing the line, "Not all victories are decided on the court." She had a long spring to get better, and get better she did. She reached the career-high ranking of world number 29. She won her first grass title at the WTA 125 level in Birmingham. And now she is doing it on the grandest grass courts in the entire sport. The bagel she received in January isn't retold as a forgotten event. It was answered. So where does this leave the story? And where does it leave her? Kapag lumago, hindi nahihinto. That is the phrase on the back of her visor, in her own language, by her own choice. Now it sounds less like a motto and more like a medical diagnosis. She is no longer the story of a promising junior who won a girls' Grand Slam title and might one day convert that potential into reality. She is a seeded player at Wimbledon in the third round with a 6-0 deciding set bagel against the woman who just knocked out Serena Williams stamped on her record. She is 1 hour and 18 minutes of economical first-round tennis, and the 6-0 final set away from reaching a place where the country she represents has never sent anyone in the Open era. Not fireworks, but a hinge. Whether she beats Iga Swiatek on Saturday is not the focus of this video. The focus is the room she currently stands in. Swiatek is in that room. Sabalenka is there too, so is Rybakina, and so is the entire second week of Wimbledon. Alexandra Eala is 21 years old. She is seeded. She just closed out a set at a major 6-0 against the giant killer of the day, and the door she just walked through is not closing behind her. That is the true shape of a turning point when it's real. Not a brilliant display of fireworks that flashes and fades, but a hinge. It is the point where the entire door, the entire career, begins to swing along a new trajectory, and that trajectory does not reverse. That is why the numbers in this video matter so much. 17 break opportunities in the first round, 0 drop service games, a deciding set bagel in the second round, a climb from number 140 to number 29 in just 12 months. These are not random stats picked to impress. They are evidence of a systematically built trend, not a lucky fairy tale. And that is also why the real question doesn't lie in the scoreline of Saturday's match against Swiatek. It lies in whether Eala will continue to stay in this room, the room of Grand Slam champions, regardless of the outcome of a single match. The least surprised and the true meaning of a journey. There's a detail in this story worth lingering a bit longer on. The people who have watched Eala closest for the past 8 years at Monaco are the exact same people who are the least surprised by what she just accomplished at Wimbledon. What does that tell us? It tells us that true mentorship does not produce shocking moments. It produces recognition, a sense that what just happened has been prepared for a long time, quietly, out of the public eye. This is the gap between the real story and the sensational headlines going viral online. A clickbait headline needs a shock, a dramatic reaction, an explosive quote. The real story is usually much quieter. An academy that believed in a girl since she was 13, a coach who patiently built every foundational brick, and an athlete who chose to carry her culture onto the court not as a costume, but as an essential part of who she is. Where I come from is a big part of who I want to become. That statement wasn't meant to grab headlines. It is the compass for how she plays, why she chose the image of the sampaguita, the national flower of the Philippines, to be embroidered on her visor. And when you look back at the entire journey, from the painful bagel in Australia in January to her first grass title in Birmingham in June to the retaliatory bagel in Wimbledon in July, you see that this is not a story of luck. This is a story of intentional construction, step by step, in silence until it can no longer be ignored. That is the true meaning behind the phrase on her visor. Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. The turning point does not stop here. So we have walked through the entire journey, from the painful bagel in Melbourne in January, to the first grass title in Birmingham in June, to the historic bagel in Wimbledon delivered to the woman who just eliminated Serena Williams, and now to the new room Alexandra Eala finds herself standing in alongside Swiatek, Sabalenka, and Rybakina. The question the tennis world once politely avoided asking, whether she could close out a major, has received its answer, at least through the third round. But the story doesn't end here. The match against Swiatek on Saturday will write a brand new chapter, and it's a chapter we all want to follow closely. This is precisely why Pro Tennis 360 exists. Not to chase fleeting sensational headlines, but to dig deep into the numbers, the details, and the real context behind every turning point in world tennis. We clearly separate what is verified from what is mere speculation, the temporary fireworks from a true shifting hinge. If you want to be right there the moment the match between Eala and Swiatek unfolds, don't miss our next video. Hit subscribe to Pro Tennis 360 right now, turn on notifications so you don't miss any analysis, and leave a comment below. How do you think Eala will fare against Swiatek this Saturday? We will be reading every single comment before the match begins. And remember the phrase on her visor, because it doesn't just apply to Alex Eala. Once something truly grows, takes deep root, and is built with genuine patience, it cannot be stopped. That is the lesson her Wimbledon journey leaves for all of us, not just tennis fans, but anyone quietly building something great of their own. See you in the next video on Pro Tennis 360.